Hi everybody, I'm going to make a start now. You're all very welcome to this session on building money guidance into social work practice, which is an unusual enough title for a social work webinar. But hopefully, over the course of the session, you'll realise what the links are and how you can use the information that you'll get in this session. I'm Anya Morrison. I'm a social work officer at the Department of Health, and this webinar has been delivered as part of a collaboration between the Northern Ireland Social Care Council, ourselves, and the Department of Health and the Money and Pensions Advice Service. I'm just going to start off by I suppose a few housekeeping bits and pieces. So really important that you keep yourself muted, because otherwise we get background noise and interference, and it can make it difficult to hear for everyone. Can we please use the chat function? So if you have questions or comments or things that you think might be useful, throw them in there. We will have time for questions at the end, so I will keep an eye on what's coming in through the chat, and hopefully we can address any specific issues there. Also to say that we do intend to have a recording of the session and all the materials from the session up on the NISC website at some point after this webinar is concluded, and we will send all participants an email at that stage, letting them know what the link is and where they can find the information. So don't worry too much about taking notes. It will be available to you at a later point. So I just wanted to say that I see this sort of webinar and this topic fitting very much into the context of anti-poverty practice for social workers. Kim, if we could just move on to the next slide, please. So I'm hoping that you've all seen this document, but if you haven't, please look it up. So this framework is really, I suppose, recognising poverty as a social work issue, recognising it as a major social injustice, and I suppose reminding us all that social work is about promoting social justice and tackling inequality. Very conscious of the levels of poverty in our society that were already there pre-pandemic, but are now exacerbated by the pandemic. And none of you will be surprised in your social work practice that if you start to think about it, that poverty and all its myriad impacts are very, very related to the work you might be doing with individual service users or individual families. So I'm just going to do a brief run through of some of the statistics in relation to poverty that you'll see in the anti-poverty practice framework. They're slightly out of date, 2018, and they're from a Joseph Rowntree Foundation report. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but just kind of put them up so that you can have a quick look. 20% of the population in Northern Ireland living in relative poverty, 1 in 5. So, you know, think about what that means for the people you're supporting. And just the kind of awareness about who's likely to be impacted by poverty, you know, who is less likely, which groups do better than others. That's all good awareness raising stuff to bring to your practice. Kim, next slide, please. And again, just a little bit more detail about some of the statistics. So 24% of single people without children, and I think that's a group that often gets forgotten about. But then lone parents, and this has been the case for a long, long time, you know, experiencing the highest poverty rates. And again, I don't doubt that that's something that you'll be aware of from your practice. Next slide, please, Kim. And again, just a bit of a further breakdown, 14% of working age households were not working. And the second point in this slide, just I suppose about the persistence of poverty. So over 2/3 of those living in poverty will have been poor for at least 3 out of the last 4 years. So poverty can be generational. It can be something that once you hit that situation, it's remarkably hard to sort of to lift yourself out again of that situation, because of all the I suppose all the difficulties that there are. Next slide, please, Kim. And again, just bear in mind employment rates, who's likely to be working, who's not. Remember that poverty is not restricted to those who aren't working. The in-work poverty is a major issue because of low-income work, and again, you will see that in your caseloads. Next slide, please, Kim. And again, just talking about employment rates and what they look like, among certain groups, for young people, for disabled people, lone parents, and then just breaking it down in terms of what does that 20% look like? 110,000 children, 220,000 working age adults. So again, this is just about awareness raising and helping you tune in to what somebody's situation might be. Next slide, please, Kim. Yeah, and this is an interesting one for us in Northern Ireland. Just that where we sit in kind of the housing market and how that impacts. So I suppose unsurprisingly, but it's a very high percentage of people living in social housing were in poverty. 34% of those in the private rented sector in poverty. And then I suppose we're fortunate. I hesitate to say too fortunate, but that in Northern Ireland we do have lower housing costs, which helps mitigate some of the impacts of poverty. Next slide, please, Kim. And just to be careful in relation to this one, among owner occupiers, poverty rate it is high, and just don't assume that because somebody has their own house that they're not necessarily poor. So as I say, that's a very brief run through of some of the statistics. Do, as I say, please go to the Anti-Poverty Practice Framework where you get a lot more detail on that. The purpose of those is really just to do a bit of scene setting about the life experiences that many of the people you are supporting will be having, and about the impact of those life experiences and poverty on the presenting issues. So if you think about the young person who's left care, a single parent with in a minimum wage job with 3 children to look after, somebody with mental health problems who struggles to maintain any sort of employment, what you will find is that poverty is likely to be both a cause and a consequence of many of the issues that you're supporting. And I suppose what the framework does is say, as social workers, we need to be tackling the root causes, but also that we're recognizing it up front as an issue, that where we can input on those, that we can make a big difference to people's lives. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Janine and Margaret to take you through the rest of this webinar.
Thanks, Anya. Afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing well on this Monday. Thank you for taking the time out to spend a bit of time with us looking at building financial wellbeing into the people you support. My name is Janine Maher. I'm the Northern Ireland Manager for Money and Pension Service, and my colleague Margaret McCloskey is also on the call. And we're going to spend a wee bit of time with you just now looking at a wee bit around financial wellbeing and some tools and resources that we have available through our websites that may be useful for you in your day-to-day work. So just to manage your expectations, we're not expecting that after an hour on this, you're all going to come away like Martin Lewis and be able to solve all of the financial worries of the people that you're dealing with. We just want to give you some tools and resources that may be helpful for you, and that can make it an easier conversation to have and to facilitate and to know where to go to get the right information and guidance. I'm actually going to turn my camera off at the moment because my children are at home and also on Google Classroom, and I don't want that to interfere with Wi-Fi. So I'll just turn my camera off in a bit and I'll turn it back on for questions at the end. And on that respect, I do apologize. I have 2 children and a dog in the house. So if you hear any noises in the background, I think we're all used to that by now. So really just thank you for taking the time. We are very conscious at the Money and Pension Service that financial well-being is very much a core of who we are and what we do, but we're also aware that it's people are doing and delivering financial well-being without even really realizing it, and social workers are a classic example of that, because it really takes a special mix of compassion and emotional strength and drive to carry out the role of being a social worker. Many of you are probably already unconsciously competent in providing money guidance in your workplace, particularly when you're thinking about helping people solving their family problems, maybe applying for a grant, looking at difficult decisions they have to make, or providing those resources or dealing with financial hardship. And as Anya referred to and what you're doing, to us, that's what's called money guidance. And really what we want to do is show you the tools and resources that the Money and Pensions Service have that may help you in those conversations. So first off, who are the Money and Pension Service? We are an arm's length body of the Department of Work and Pensions, set up by DWP and Treasury, funded by a levy on financial services. And we are bringing together 3 existing brands of the Money Advice Service, PensionWise, and the Pension Advisory Service. And a lot of the tools that we're going to look at today are hosted on our Money Advice Service website. So we are a statutory body set up to deliver money guidance, debt advice, and pensions advice. And we also have the statutory responsibility for driving up financial capability, financial well-being throughout the UK. Last year, March 2020, we published a strategy, and this was a strategy that was supposed to be 10 years looking at driving up financial well-being across the UK. And we literally published it just before COVID hit. So the crisis happened and we basically had to stop and think and reevaluate and understand what we planning to do, what we were aiming to do, and the impact of COVID on financial well-being. So the next slide is a bit of a busy slide, but this is what we knew about Northern Ireland before COVID hit. So it's just setting the scene about what we knew, and it's basically focusing on the financial well-being challenges that we already had pre-COVID and how we link those to our own agendas for change. So this is a very busy slide, so I really I apologize in advance, but it's just to give you a bit of context. Before COVID, we knew that 155,000 children and young people in Northern Ireland are not receiving a meaningful financial education. So that's one of our agendas for change, is focusing on financial foundations and ensuring that by 2030, more young people in Northern Ireland have had a firm financial foundation and financial education in the school environment. 400,000 people in Northern Ireland have less than £100 in savings. So, you know, in the event of something going wrong, and something has gone wrong, there's no financial resilience there. There's no savings pot to rely on in the event of something happening. 164,000 people in Northern Ireland using credit to pay for food and bills. So day-to-day living, using credit for that. So our first agenda for change is financial foundations. Our second is around creating a nation of savers. Our third is around driving down the use of credit. Our fourth is around people accessing debt advice, because we know there are people in Northern Ireland in need of debt advice, but not accessing it. And the last one then is around your financial future. So ensuring people or accessing the information, advice and guidance in order to plan for their financial futures. So before COVID, we knew there were challenges, and obviously COVID has changed that. People have used their savings, people have had a reduction in their income, and really we know that there's going to be a massive impact on financial well-being because of that. A recent study of employees during the pandemic, 2,000 employees, UK AON, found that 24% of those respondents that they had spoken to were not sure if they could come up with £1,000 in the event of emergency. So in the event of if you don't have that savings buffer and something happens, then you become more reliant on credit and debt to get by. 47% of those respondents said that they didn't follow a budget, but 17% said they would like a budgetary tool to help them. So if 47% of those people are not managing their money, not making the most of their money, they could be spending more money than they have and living beyond their means, or not making the most of their money. 1 in 4 people saying that they will never be able to retire. So not having that confidence that they will have enough money set aside or enough of a pension built up in order to survive. And earlier, to the point that Anya made around food parcels and the types of people that you might be dealing with, 33,000 food parcels were issued by Trussell Trust during April and November 2020. 85% of those were to people on universal credit, and 15% of those were to people that were employed. We also know in a COVID context that young people are 2.5 times more likely than older people to work in a sector that's been hit by COVID. And that is resulting in job losses for young people, and that's accelerating. And it's International Women's Day, but we are also gender inequalities and financial well-being is a strong core component of our strategy. We know that women are 1/3 more likely to men to have worked in a sector that is closed or financially suffering. And we also know that women are more likely to be over indebted than men from our own debt surveys. So we know that there's a particular gender impact with COVID as well. So the combination of these increased debts and unavoidable changes to your job situation, and perhaps difficulties in getting a new job, will result in deep financial well-being challenges. And that's particularly against the backdrop when we already knew there were challenges in Northern Ireland. Next slide there, Margaret. So what is financial well-being? Financial well-being is a term that we are using. What does it mean? But it really applies to you as an individual, but also to the people that you work with. And it's around knowing that you can pay the bills you have today, you can deal with the unexpected, and you're on track for a healthy future. And it's ensuring that you feel secure, confident, empowered in dealing with your finances. Financial stress can have such a big impact on people's lives. And a financially healthy nation is really good for us as individuals, for our communities, for business, and for their economy. But it's around so much more than that. And what we just want to cover here is a really good example of how financial well-being is intrinsically linked to your mental well-being, and one relies on the other. So it is about feeling confident, empowered, and about money matters. So, and it's not rocket science either. It's not a complicated thing. On our website, we've got a really good page called Beginner's Guide to Managing Your Money. And from our respect, there's 5 stages to that. 1 is setting up a budget. 2 is getting your budget on track. Maximizing your income. For example, we have a really good service through the Department for Communities here called Make the Call, where you can look to see any benefits that you may be entitled to. Minimize your outgoings. 3rd one is then pay off loans and credit cards. Look at the rates that you're paying. Pay off the most expensive first. 4th one is setting a savings goal. Build up that financial resilience. And lastly, if you're overwhelmed by your debt, seek help. So it's not a an overly complicated process. And what we really want to do is give you some tools and examples from our website that would help you with the people that you're dealing with go through that process. What is money guidance then? Money guidance in a context of financial services, advice is when you go to see somebody in your bank or a financial advisor and they recommend for you a specific product or a course of action based on your circumstances. They'll interview you and they'll recommend a particular product or life insurance or something along those lines. That is advice, and that is financial advice. Money guidance is much more of an impartial service which helps you identify your options, narrow down your choices, but you are empowered to make the choice for yourself. The decision becomes yours. And it's really, this is where we see money guidance as part of what you're doing, because it's very much around giving people access to the information so that they can make an informed choice for themselves. Who offers money guidance? We are, as Money Pension Service, we're not suggesting that you as busy social workers have to now add money guidance as a whole new element into your work. But we want to recognize that you're probably already doing some of this in your day-to-day, as well as so many other frontline workers, such as people in housing associations, local authorities, charities, councils, along the way, helping people get the information that they need. And what we want to do is give you the tools and resources to support this, to ensure that we can achieve the right outcomes for the people that you're talking to. Being a money guider isn't about being a money expert, but by using the opportunities to build good money guidance into the conversations that you're already having. And for us, we're just want to share with you the resources that we have available, because we're very, I'm sure you've heard that the African verb, it can take a whole village to raise a child, but this is true in terms of social work as well. And there are so many other important organizations, from debt specialists, food banks, housing specialists, universal credit advisors, banks and credit unions within the money guidance space that can help the service users and the people that you work with. So my objective, Margaret's objective today, is to help show you these resources and tools and calculators that are available to you and that you may want to use with your service users. So we just want to give you a couple of examples of case studies here that give you a good example of the support systems that are available. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the case studies, and then Margaret is going to show you tools that are on our website that would be useful in each case study. These are real case studies, but obviously we have redacted personal information for client privacy. In this particular case then, this took place over a very tough Christmas and New Year for the client. And the client was in the process of transitioning from DLA to PIP. And in the process of her transition, she had experienced a drop in her income and had fallen into arrears in her mortgage. By reaching out to her local credit union and actually approached the credit union looking for a loan to cover her arrears. And because of the local credit union had well-established links with the local community advice centre, the client was able to then access debt advice and benefits advice. The community advice centre organised a volunteer to carry out a review of the PIP. The debt advisor was able to advocate on behalf with the Building Society. The community advice centre provided Celine with food vouchers as well as a one-pack courtesy of the PHA. The review of the PIP was successful, and she's now able to return to paying the agreed amount to her Building Society. So I think from this respect, in this particular case study, it's showing that reaching out to the right person and connecting with your local community advice, able to access housing advice, mortgage debt advice, and as well as her care in terms of the warm pack and the food vouchers. And I just really want to emphasize that our community debt specialists across Northern Ireland provide that holistic approach to their service in terms of understanding the full client need and to get to the root problem for the clients. So Margaret, if you could perhaps show some of those resources there that we've linked on the side for this case study.
Thank you, Janine, and hello everyone. So as Janine said, in each case study will outline additional support for you to consider using with your service users. And in this case study, we're providing you with a line to speak with a debt specialist, either with Advice NI or, as Janine said, within the community advice centres that offer the holistic approach, and they're within your local council areas. We're also providing you with a link here for Christians Against Poverty. It's obviously you can see it as CAP UK here listed on the link, and their work in Northern Ireland is very impressive. And we have 3 tools from the Money Advice website that we would like to you to access as well in this particular case study. So if we go pop across now to, I'm just going to share a different screen here with you now. So and I've opened up now at the Advice NI Independent Advice Network for Northern Ireland. So this is the list of different community advice centres within Northern Ireland that you can actually reach out to in order to obtain the support here for your service users. And you can see that's an extensive list, and it goes right across Northern Ireland. And you can also speak to Advice NI as well if you call their number, but there's a membership of the community advice are members of Advice NI, and they're dotted right across Northern Ireland. The next area that we want to take you into then is our Money Advice Service site. So I'm just going to go into the home screen here. So this is our home screen of our Money Advice Service site that Janine referred to earlier. And if you look at the top header here, you'll see 8 core topics right across this here screen. And in each of these core topics, it widens out and expands further into subtitles. So for example, here, budgeting and saving, then you'll have the budgeting and managing money, saving and investment, my money, Brexit and the coronavirus. And then it'll actually go down into subtitles. So for example, if I expand here to how to save money, it'll actually extend further again, and it'll help someone develop, build, or top up their knowledge and understanding of a specific subject. So say, for example, I wanted to again for saving for children, I can expand out again, and that'll take me right into more deeper detail on the particular subject that I'm reading on. I'm just going to go back out to the home screen again. Okay, so I can get back out to the home. Okay, so the next area that I want to show you here within this before I go into the budgeting tools is at the very bottom of this screen. And it's ways that you can actually communicate with us. So you can communicate with us via a web chat, WhatsApp, which is very popular, especially for people that actually don't have airtime left on their mobile phones, and they can actually communicate with us at their own time. Some people actually will access and need to talk to somebody maybe in the middle of the night when there's no services available, but actually using WhatsApp and keying into WhatsApp what their money worry is. And then what we do is we will respond to them during office hours. And then you also have our helpline where you can talk on a one-to-one basis. Now, as social workers, you can actually do that yourselves. You can key it in terms of, you know, what you want to talk to them about in terms of your service users, or you can actually use it for your own support and help. But we would ask you to platform these services with your service users. I'm now just going to go up to the top of the Money Advice Service website, again to the yellow header here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to visit the budgeting and savings calculator. So you can see here on the right hand side, there's a list of tools and calculators in these red boxes. So I'm going to hopefully be able to access this budget planner. Okay, so a budget planner helps us all puts us all in control of our household spending and analyzes the results to help you take control of your money. And this budget planner in particular is used by hundreds of thousands of people right across the UK. So let's get started here. So there's an area here on the top, just below the budget planner income. There's a line which actually runs right across how to use, and then it'll look for income and then all the expenditure, and then it'll give you a summary at the end. So how do we use this? So click in how to use. So what it's asking you to do is, number one, to enter what you spend and how much you earn. Number two, the calculator will give you a breakdown of your finances. And number three, it'll give you personalized tips to help you make the most of your money. So let's do a wee sample of this budget planner so you can actually see how it works. So here we go. We're going to put in our income. So I'm just going to put in some figures in each one of these areas along the headers there. So I'm going to put in 1,800 for income after tax. And then you can see there it asks me for benefits and taxes. If I expand that out, then I can look then to see what other income that I'm getting. So if I was getting £12 a week on child benefit, I can key that in, change the downward arrow to per week in that case. And then I can look at other areas that I'm possibly getting income. So in this case now, I'm getting an income of £1,852 per month. So if I go back up to the header again, and I look then for the household bills, and here it's asking me for my mortgage and mortgage payments. So I'm going to put in £350 per month. If I come down, other property charges, home insurance, and utilities. So I'm going to put in here for utilities. I'll put in broadband here, say £35 per month, and then I'll come down to the very bottom again. So it's shown here. Obviously, I haven't completed all the other figures, so it's shown my household bills is £385 per month. Come back up to the top again, and I'm going to go into my living costs next. So my groceries. So I'm going to say £100 for my groceries. I'm going to go £20 for takeaways, and then I'm going to go expand out into the clothes and the shoes, the health and beauty, and you can see how detailed that this budget actually is asking me to add in detail, probably stuff that I wouldn't even think about if I was doing a budget. And then it's given me room then for additional items. So my living costs here for the couple of figures I put in is £521. So if I go across again, it'll ask me for finance, insurance, family and friends, travel and leisure, and it'll take me right there. So I'll just skip across here now to the summary. So here you can see in the summary, it's saying that based on the few figures that I put in, it's telling me that my budget's looking good at the moment. So if an income of 1,852 and my spending's only £960, then it's actually giving me a breakdown of how my spending's going. So it gives me different percentages. And then what it's then asking me to do then is I can sign in to save this budget plan. And this budget plan, once you do it, it belongs to you. It's not put onto any other site. It's personal for yourselves. You can email your results, you can print it, or you can download a spreadsheet. Now, I looked at that spreadsheet this morning. It's absolutely brilliant to even download the spreadsheet and use it on an ongoing basis as well. The next steps it's asking me to do is perhaps maybe to look about maybe saving money, because obviously I've got £945 spare cash here. And if I click that link, it'll actually take me into a section within the Money Advice Service website that actually discuss some ways that I perhaps could actually get into the saving habit. So you can see how that goes into quite a lot of detail. So I'm going to go back out to my budget plan here. It's also let me know that I could perhaps maybe look to save further money on household bills. So again, if I click that link, it would take me back into the Money Advice Service site. The same for Invest Your Money. And then in this case here, it's asking me to take control of my money in terms of we all spend cash on things that aren't really essential, such as here, alcohol, and obviously they got me on my takeaways. So if you can, if you need help in how to actually save money quickly, they're actually asking me to use this quick cash finder. And this quick cash finder, we put that link on the case study at the front. So using your quick cash finder, it actually will help you to cut back on costs. And of course, then, I did put down £20 for, takeaways per week, and then that'll work it out then on an annual basis of what I'm spending £20 a week on it. Of equates to £1,040 a year. But for example, then if I said non-packed lunches, and I was spending, say, £10 a day in non-packed lunches, and it was worked out at £50 a week, then it's going to give me a calculation of 2,600 per year. So perhaps it is a good way of actually finding how you could actually save money. The other area in this here saying to me is perhaps you should maybe visit our savings calculator here. So if I just click this one here, it's taking me to the savings calculator. So I can use this savings calculator to kind of work out when, you know, if I have an objective, say, for example, buying a new television or a new washing machine, and say it's going to cost £700, how much can you save? Say if I said I can save £40 a month. What have you saved already? I'll say 0. And then I can do my quick calculation here. And it's going to take me to September next year, 1.5 years to be able to save that £700. But if I increase my saving by £10 up to £60 per month, I could meet my objective 4 months sooner. So that's an outline of some of our budgetary tools. If you were going into the website and you were looking for the quick cash finder and you didn't see it along the headers there, just go into the center part of the homepage and you'll see popular tools and calculators. So if you click into that and then you expand that out, that'll give you the full list of tools and calculators, and you'll get your savings calculator, quick cash finder, and you'll also get your budget planner in there as well. So I'm just going to go back now to yourself, Janine.
Thank you. Thanks, Margaret.
Janine, hold on 2 seconds. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So yeah, I really hope you find that some of those tools and resources for the case study one that would have been beneficial to helping Celine in managing her budget, as well as reaching out to the community advice. The second case study is a complex case, and again, this particular complex case involves a loan, sharing a home with an ex-partner, no contribution towards bills, a non-molestation order, domestic violence. It's a very complicated case where the person in particular was housebound because his job due to COVID has stopped as a musician. He's claiming universal credit, but he can't afford to leave his home. James, in this particular case, because of the complexity of it in dealing with paying for the bills and paying for the mortgage on the house, community advice, when he sought it, has recommended James seek legal support because he wants his ex-partner to leave his home, as per the clauses within the contract that he has. However, it's making it very difficult to deal with his ex-partner's father, and it's having an impact on James's mental and financial well-being. And the reason why we're showing you this particular case study is because we understand, in the nature of the work that you're doing, there will be very complex cases and support is required from a number of organizations. And we just wanted to give you some examples of where James could go for expert advice that he needs in dealing with this particular case. So Margaret, if you could show some of those resources there. Thanks,
Janine. So in order to reassure James further, we would recommend James to reach out to House and Rights to help James with mediation. So I'm just going to go across here now to the House and Rights website. This might come up as a black screen, so yeah, it has. Right, okay, so if I key in House and Rights again. Okay, so we would recommend that James could get mediation. So this is the House and Rights website. So if we scroll right down to the very bottom here, they have a mediation service. And if James actually completed this online form and then explained a situation, he could actually submit that, and House and Rights will make contact with him. When we're on this website, we also want to point out that House and Rights offer brilliant opportunities for people that actually would have mortgage or rental arrears, or if they were being evicted by their landlord. And they also offer a really good program for young people that would have rental issues. So it's actually a good contact to have within your as we called our Mary Poppins bag. The other one that we wanted to point out in terms of James's support is the actual men's advice helpline. If you're in the Western Trust, there's also the Men's Action Network. And we're putting these up more so for the emotional support that James could actually get from these particular sites. The other one that we wanted to show you is back into the Money Advice Service website. So in this case, we would actually say to James, because he's separated, that perhaps that there is a section within the family and care, and then down into the, oh gosh, it's not going to go, down into the divorce and separation. And then there's a couple of links within this here that we think that James could perhaps get some support and help from. The first one is renting, protect your rights to your home during separation. In this section here, James could avail of that there in terms of just reading it up. And then there's a section here for Northern Ireland. And then if I click and go back out, then there's another area here, protecting your home ownership during divorce or protecting your home ownership rights during separation. And James could avail of those links within the Money Advice website. And I'm just going to go back to the website now, Janine, for the next, sorry, the PowerPoint for the next case study.
Brilliant, thank you, Margaret. The next case that we want to talk about is dealing with debt. Again, this may be something that you are seeing when you're out dealing with your service users. The debt would be a particular issue. And Jane, in this case, had accrued £20,000 in debt in recent times, and is very concerned of dealing with her debt advice or her debt situation and the need of debt advice. And it's really having a big impact on her mental and physical health. The community advice centre, when they had a detailed discussion with Jane, trying to understand her debt situation and look for a solution, discovered that Jane was eligible for a DRO, which is a debt relief order. However, there's a fee of £90 to process a debt relief order. And really, Jane's struggling to actually find the £90 to pay for it. So the solution for her is, there's a barrier to accessing that solution. So I think, Margaret, you have got some information there on eligible resources that could help Jane in finding the £90.
Yep, definitely, Janine. So here we have Turn to Us. So we're going to visit that website, and we're going to help support you possibly, or help support Jane in this case to possibly maybe get some financial support. We also are proposing here that Jane, sorry, should look and use the budget planner, look at the cash finder, and we're also going to go pop across again to the Money Advice Service in terms of protecting yourself against financial abuse. So I'm just going to go across now to the website, and I'll start off with my dog is barking downstairs, so that's what's put me off here. So in terms of the for yourselves, in order to understand what is, a DRO. So we're just going to show you this here. So if you go into debt and borrowing, and then taking control of your debt, and then options for clearing your debt in Northern Ireland, here Janine mentioned it's a debt relief order, and you can actually read up on what a debt relief order is in order to actually understand it from your own for your own knowledge and understanding. When I'm on this website, I'm going to, if I can get back up again, I'm also going to show you the area here within family and care, divorce and separation, and it's the protecting against financial abuse. Now, we know that the community advice has explored the 20k debt with Jane, and they're satisfied that there's the reason behind it. But from a social worker perspective, we felt that perhaps you could read protecting against financial abuse on the Money Advice website. Financial abuse can take a lot of different forms. So, we're looking at it with different, it's different within different relationships. And there's a great report within this here that actually could help expand your knowledge of that even further. So I'm just going to go now, turn to the next website, which is Turn to Us. Now, in this case, we've actually looked to see, well, where has Jane worked in terms of her previous work experience? And we are aware that she worked within retail. So what you do is you search for a grant. So you put in your postcode, female, and then you give away your age in this case. And what you do then is you look for your occupation. And it'll actually give you a list of all the occupations that are out there. So in this case, Jane worked in retail. So she worked in a convenience retail store. So we click food and grocery. We know within the convenience market, there was newspapers and magazines. So you click that. And if there's anything here, like retail, wholesale and manufacturing, we'll do that. So we'll just apply a quick search now to see if there's any benevolent funds out there that could perhaps support Jane. In this case, we can see grocery aid. So, grocery aid helps grocery colleagues who are currently working for at least 2 years or have previously worked for at least 5 years. So Jane perhaps could meet that criteria in actually putting in an application. So, and any part of grocery, including retail, wholesale, distribution. So we can use that as a possible area for Jane to go. So let's go scroll on down to see if there's any other funds. You can see here. So here's News Trade Benevolent Fund. So News Trade Benevolent Funds helps people with immediate dependence or have been employed in newspapers and magazine distribution. And that would include shop assistants, news agents. So in this case, Jane actually would meet that criteria. So if we click in here, we can actually see what they cover, who is eligible, and it's people who have engaged in the distribution and sale of newspapers and magazines, and in the convenience market, that's where that lies, and then how to apply. So Jane would actually put an application. She could obtain an application through this link, or she could actually call and speak to one of the welfare support people on that. And what we're trying to do here for Jane is get the money that, help her to get the £90 to process the DRO. We talked about that she could do it through the budget planner or the quick cash finder, but she's struggling and she can't come up with that money. And the community advice network needs for her to get the £90 before they can process the DRO. But Jane's going to go deeper into debt. So by using this application here through the News Trade Benevolent Fund, we can actually apply for a means tested grant to support Jane, because she has fallen on hard times. She has previously worked in the retail trade, and by actually putting an application through, they will want to authenticate that Jane did work in the convenience store, and Jane needs to put in the details of the retailer that she worked with, and then that'll be authenticated and validated by the News Trade Benevolent Fund in this case. Hopefully Jane will obtain the payment towards the fund. I know in the past myself from experience of working with Benevolent Fund here, they actually have supported people with laptops, with books for school, etc., just to help families that actually have fallen on hard times. So it's good to know that these benevolent funds are available, and it's good that you don't actually have to be a member to actually avail of that as well. In this particular case, News Trade Benevolent Fund will check in with Jane as top-ups in terms of checking her well-being and checking her financial well-being. So once she starts an application off with them and they have taken her application on, they will look after her beyond that. So that's me come back now to you, Janine, if I can share.
Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate that. And I think, the point that we want to make is that although cases may feel and look complex, there are places of resources and help available. And that Jane, when she reaches out to the community advice centre, our local community advice, she can get help with her debt advice, even though that is a real burden for her right now. She can get help with her debt advice. She can look for opportunities to help support her with the £90 application for her debt relief order, and hopefully that's something that you will use in future whenever you're dealing with cases that might be similar to Jane. The last client I just want to look at in case study 4. This is someone who is unable to get on top of his finances. So there is no, he hasn't defaulted in any of his credit cards. He owns his property, but his options were limited. He had an offer from a credit card for an interest-free credit card balance transfer, but he assumed he could only transfer the balance if he was already on 0%. He thought he could only do the Barclay card to Barclay card. So with a money guidance support, we discussed with him transferring his other card, which is accruing interest onto the lower interest rate, and get all of his debt on a 0% interest rate. And now all of his monthly payments that he's making are reducing the balance, and therefore his debt will be decreasing, becomes much more affordable, and it will not affect either his property or his credit rating. So in this particular case study, this was somebody who's just not making the most of their money and not managing it. And by not being on top of his budget and not being on top of his finance, was perhaps spending more than he should have done on his debt. And in terms of the other ways to support this particular client, there's those resources that are available through the Money Advice Service website. So if you just wanted to show those, Margaret, the ones we have there.
Thanks, Janine. Okay, so I'm just going to pop a close now to the. Okay, so really what you would be doing here is you begin into the debt and borrowing, and then you begin down into credit cards and credit ratings. So the one that paying off your credit card is here. So if you click that, and then that'll give you some reading material here. Okay, so I'll just show another one, Janine, if that's all right. And here, should you transfer your credit card balance? And there's information there, Janine, as well. So
brilliant.
All right, thank you. I'm just
thank you. So that's the end of our case studies. We hope we will send through the links that, as Anya said, for all of the information that we've put up there, so that you can have a look at the website yourself and have a look at some of those resources that you may want to use going forward. I think the point we just want to emphasize is that there's a strong relationship between financial well-being and mental well-being, and we are very conscious that one problem can feed off the other, and it can create this vicious cycle of financial problems and worsening mental health that becomes hard to escape. Mental health problems can affect a person's ability to concentrate or process complex information and make good choices as well. And these symptoms can make it harder to keep on top of their finances or get a good deal in a complex environment. So what we're trying to do through the Money Advice Service website is actually focus and take people through a journey. I did see somebody had asked a question in the chat earlier on about the budget planner on paper, and you can actually print out those budget planners on paper. I would try and see if you could use it on a digital platform, because there's a lot of work has been put into those websites, and the delivery of those websites to take people on a journey and first of all do the calculations for you, which is very beneficial, that you're not trying to do the calculations, but alongside the numerical information, alongside the money figures that you're putting in, the advice and guidance becomes tailored to that person's needs to help focus on what the action and what their next steps that are tailored to their particular circumstances. As you saw when Margaret went through the budget planner, there was 4 steps that she could do with her budget, and that's one of the real strengths of that online resource, is that it becomes tailored to the person submitting their information. We're very conscious too that people experiencing mental health problems are 3.5 times more likely to be in problem debt than people without. So there is a definite connection, and we find with a lot of our resources and a lot of our services that we are funding across the UK that becomes harder for people to manage and to deal with in a complex environment. Mental health problems can impact how we use our money and how we use credit and debt. And during periods of poor mental health, some people take out forms of credit that they maybe wouldn't necessarily have applied for, or commitments such as unaffordable credit products that create lasting financial burdens. And I know particularly, irrespective of how people's mental health it would normally be. The pandemic restrictions have really affected thousands of people across Northern Ireland, their financial well-being, but even being at home and isolated has maybe meant, and I'm sure we've all been doing that as well, we've been spending more online and shopping more online. And I've certainly noticed myself that when I've been looking at things online, that buy now, pay later options are becoming the norm, and encouraging people to spread out the cost of something, which could be really beneficial if you're struggling to buy that item, but not if you're buying repeatedly on those situations. So really what we are trying to look at here is helping people make decisions and set up budgets for what's affordable for them, and making sure that people in trying circumstances are not making complex, are not making decisions that will have long-term ramifications for them, which can lead to missing payments or late fees or triggering debt problems. So when your income is down, and you're worried about your financial your situation, or you maybe have been furloughed or struggling to get back on track after a payment holiday, those are the situations that we're seeing people coming through now. Money and Pension Service have developed a tool called the Money Navigator tool, which is very much around supporting people affected by COVID and helping produce for them a tailored, personalized here's my action plan of what I should do. So I just want to show you very quickly what our Money Navigator tool looks like. I don't think we've got any sound, Margaret.
Got that, Janine. I'll just bring that back actually.
And much more. The pandemic has created uncertainty.
Sorry, Janine, I'm just going to start it.
Coronavirus has impacted people's finances in many ways, from redundancy to a loss in income and savings and much more. The pandemic has created uncertainty and complexity across the country. At the Money Advice Service, we want to ensure people are getting the right help as early as possible, and that you have access to an independent and trusted resource which shows your support for your consumers or people you help. Our Money Navigator tool helps consumers find the guidance they need. They'll be directed to a number of questions that will identify their regional location, general employment situation, income concerns, housing situation, repayment commitments, paying off debt, and impact on mental health. Then be presented with information and self-help tools specific to their problems, which helps them stay on top of their finances. They'll know what's important and which bills or credit commitments to prioritise, what they're entitled to, and where to go for specialist support. Whether it's understanding what happens when payment holidays end, where they can cut back and maximise income, how they can work with creditors to develop a workable repayment plan, or understand the consequences of ignoring missed payments, consumers can stop their money worries turning into serious trouble with the Money Navigator tool. To provide holistic guidance and specialist support to more complex queries, we're working with partners in the wider advice network as well as our own. You can ensure your consumers or people you support are getting the help and guidance they need when they need it by signposting to the new tool in your communications. It's all in one place, free to use, and ensures they can move forward during this challenging time in the best possible way.
We'd like to move on now to Did You Know session, and we're going to look at two possible schemes that your service users could avail of. The first one is the unique grant under the Universal Credit Payment Scheme. Did you know that there is a unique grant for people who are in financial hardship while waiting for their first universal payment? It's called a Universal Credit Contingency Payment Plan. And unlike a loan, it does not have to be repaid. Awareness is very low and many people apply for an advance, getting themselves into debt when they are entitled to get this one-off non-repayable grant. To obtain this grant, contact the Finance Support Service, and universal credit claimants need to specify that they want to be considered specifically for the UCCF payment, as finance support administers a variety of grants and financial aid. We've added in three actual extra tools here that we perhaps feel that your service users could avail of. The first is the Universal Credit Helper tool, which is on the homepage of the Money Advice Service website. Fully recommend that tool because it actually goes into the detail of other service providers that could help your service users within Northern Ireland. We have added in the benefits calculator, which sits on the NI Direct website. Now, we've talked to our DFC colleagues about this benefits calculator, and they've asked that we use this as a guide more so for universal credit claimants. And finally, we have added in Advice NI, who should be able to support a service user on a universal credit and PIP application if you come into contact with that. The next Did You Know is a scheme that we want to platform is a government help to save scheme because there is low awareness of it and perhaps your service users could take advantage of it. We have added in the link here to support any applications for it on this slide. So in terms of eligibility, you only need to be eligible on the day you apply for a help to save account. So if you receive a working tax credit, are entitled to working tax credit and receive child tax credit, or claiming universal credit, or if you're obtaining universal payment as a couple, you and your partner can apply for your own help to save account, but you do need to apply separately for it. If your circumstances change and you stop getting tax credits or universal credit, your help to save account will still stay active and you can continue to save into it. You can pay up from anything from £1 up to a maximum of £50 per month into the account. You can also make individual payments from your bank into your help to save account or by using your direct debit card. And after 2 years, you will receive a bonus payment of 50% of the highest balance you achieved in this period. So for example, if the highest balance during the first 2 years is £500, you will receive a £250 bonus payment. If you withdraw, you can withdraw, and it will actually take up to 3 days to obtain the money out of the account. However, your bonus will be affected if you do withdraw money out of it. And after 4 years, you will receive another bonus of 50% of the difference between the highest balance achieved during the first 2 years and the highest balance received during the 3rd and 4th year. So for example, if the highest balance after the first 2 years is £500 and the highest balance in the second 2 years is £900, the bonus will be calculated on the £400 difference. So in this case, you will get a second bonus of £200. So all in all, saving £900, you could get a £450 bonus saving. So that's a good wee, scheme actually to get involved in, and you can see the link up here on the top of the slide. The last slide for me, before I hand back to Janine, that we would like to platform is the Employers for Childcare charity. And the cost for childcare can be one of the largest outgoings for a family, or in some cases, a barrier to work for parents. There is support available through Employers for Childcare because it's a complex landscape and it can be difficult for individuals or professionals to work out what is out there. and what is the best form of support in each circumstance, and where do you send people to get the right advice. So employers for childcare can actually help support your service users with towards tax-free childcare, universal credit, tax credits, childcare vouchers. And what they say is that any parents that they've actually worked with that have received personal benefits, that they have identified an average of 4,267 in financial support for them. So their details are on this slide for your use if you'd like to avail of their service. So I'm going to hand back now to yourself, Janine. Are you there, Janine?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I'm chatting away with myself on mute. Thanks for that, Margaret. Really appreciate that. Really, folks, we've given you a very brief overview of what money guidance is, what tools and resources we have available on our website, and what you could do and how you might use those to help and plan and support the people that you work with. We really hope you find some of this useful, but we certainly aren't going to be able to cover everything in a money guidance space in a lunchtime slot, and that's where our Money Guiders program comes in. Money and Pension Service have developed a Money Guiders program, and that program itself includes a money guidance competency framework. It includes a user guide, self-help tools, research and evaluation, e-learning programs, recognition and reward, and accessing money guidance learning networks. So we are currently running a pilot that runs until September of this year, where we're testing these e-learning assessment tools, and we're looking for partners or for organizations that would like to be part of that process. And I know from our first social work webinar, there was quite a few people raised their hand and said they'd like to be part of that. We want to evaluate this phase of the Money Guiders program so that we can really understand the benefit of embedding that money guidance, e-learning and training resources, and supplying and sharing those resources across other fields that are not normal money advice or normal community advice. And this evaluation phase that we're currently going through will help us test and adapt as we go along, so that we can support the rollout of money guidance across the UK and really ensure that we're getting the right outcomes for the people that we're all working with. There's quite a lot of organisations and practitioners across the UK that are going to be part of this competency framework. And if this is something that you think that you would be interested in as being part of this pilot, please do let Anya know, and we can certainly take that forward. But once the evaluation is completed, that's something that we really want to promote through Northern Ireland. The benefits of being part of a money guidance programme is really improving the financial wellbeing outcomes of the people that we're supporting. It's about recognising organisations and professionals that are delivering good quality money guidance across the UK. And for you as individuals, it's helping you or your team understand your own money guidance skill set, identifying where training and development could be needed, or upskilling what you already do by using e-learning networks and communities. And really what we want to do is to enhance the offering that you have when you're dealing with your service users in a framework for delivery by accessing the tools and resources that we have available. Bearing in mind that we are an arm's length body of Department of Work and Pensions, everything that we do is available for free, and it is independent and impartial, and it is therefore supporting people making good financial wellbeing decisions for themselves. So just before we go into some questions, I just wanted to summarize a wee bit and just recommend the next steps for yourselves as individuals. We've given you a lot of information, and I'm conscious that that's a lot of information to take over lunchtime. You will be emailed a copy of the slides, and you'll be able to look at the links that we have. So I would recommend that you familiarize yourself with those budgetary tools that we've used in the case studies, and really encourage your service users to use them. And it really helps support their own individual financial well-being. I really encourage you to look at the Money Navigator tool, for example. Put yourself through those tools, and so you're familiar with the outcomes, and the Universal Helper tool, the benefits calculator that we've looked at, as well as the other resources, the budget plan and the quick cash and the benefits calculator. I would also encourage you to establish referral networks. On the first case study, the first page that Margaret showed, we had the links up for all of the community advice organisations across Northern Ireland. Make that contact with your local community advice centre. They're more than willing to do that. They can give you a direct link of how to support your service users. And if you want to be part of the Money Guiders programme, contact Anya and we can take forward work going forward on how the Money Guiders programme will work. And we're more than happy to come back if you would like any more information on that. But thank you for your time so far. And I think we've got some questions in the chat. Anya, if you wanted to look at those.
Thanks very much, Janine. Yeah, there's a couple of questions coming up in the chat, and also there was a question from the last webinar that I thought might be useful to address as well. Should have told you about that beforehand. But I think you've already talked about paper copies of tools and how we can do that. There was a question also about maybe people being panicked or I suppose afraid of starting to talk about money, and would it lead them to maybe lose money or lose entitlements? And I suppose, from the social work response to that question, this is all about your communication skills, your relationship with people, how you engage, is it, what works best for that person? Is it a very upfront approach, or is it something that you would maybe just bring to bring into a conversation very gradually? So I think that would be one question. The other issue which came up at the last webinar, and I suspect is very useful for all social workers, is the issue of illegal money lending, and how that impacts on the people that we're likely to be supporting, and how can we respond to that. So maybe, Janine, if I could ask you to address those two, and then there's a lot of requests coming through about people wanting information, which is great. So I'll ask Nisk to come in on that to let you know how we're going to communicate with people after this webinar.
Okay, great, thank you. I see Sarah's question there about discussing benefits. And I do understand, and I know from my own previous experience that people do worry that if they have the benefits reviewed, that they could actually face a reduction. I suppose there are, if you look at the NI Direct website, there is a benefits calculator available on that where people can look to see what they are entitled to. I would suggest that is a very difficult situation, and I suppose you're going to have to use your own personal judgment whether or not you feel that is a real risk or a perceived risk. If someone is claiming something that they wouldn't ordinarily be entitled to, the reality of it is it would have to be paid back at some point in time. So the sooner they start that journey, the better for them. So I think it's worth doing that. You could try the benefits check on the NI Direct website, which is more anonymized. But I'm certainly hearing from Department for Communities colleagues, and the reason why they have the Make the Call campaign is because there are more people out there who are not accessing everything they're entitled to. Income maximization is the first stage in any money guidance journey, making sure people are getting everything that they're entitled to. So there's probably a greater risk that they're not getting things that they're entitled to than having a reduction. And if the reduction does come, that was going to come at some point in time anyway, and possibly would be a sum of money that they would have to pay back. So I think there's probably a combination of things on how you approach that. In terms of illegal money lending, we had a question in the last session which was really important, relating to case study 3 and the client with debt advice. Debt is a specialist advice service, and all of our debt advisors in Northern Ireland are highly trained professional individuals that are well versed in delivering debt advice. When a client comes forward, and quite often what I hear from the debt advice sector is that when a debt solution, so whether that's a bankruptcy or a DRO or an IVA or any of the solutions that exist, some of the reasons why they fail is because the client hasn't declared a form of debt that they have, and that might be an illegal form of debt. And clients don't always tell a debt advisor that they have an illegal form of lending, whether that's because they're, embarrassment or shame, or they don't want anybody to know, or the partner doesn't know. There's 101 different reasons why people don't declare. But I would strongly advise, if you come across clients in the same situation, you must tell your debt advisor that there is an illegal form of credit there as well, or debt there as well. The debt advisor will have seen it before. They will know what to do. It's not something that it's going to be a shock to them. And in order to get the right solution and the right support, the debt advisor needs to have all of the information in front of them in order to get the right solution for them. So if that is something that you're facing, just advise that the people that you're working with, the debt advisor has seen it before, and they will know how to deal with it. And quite often we have heard of debt advisors. I know of debt advisors in Northern Ireland that have spoken to illegal money lenders on behalf of their clients. They've advocated for the client. So they really need to share that information with the debt advisor when they do meet, and all of their names are on that link that Margaret put up first with your local community advice. So it's about establishing those networks and the relationships with your local community advice. I hope that answers the question. Oh,
sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, no, that's really helpful advice, Janine, and I think I've no doubt that that all the social workers on this webinar will be very experienced in people who, have the old of illegal money lending, and will understand the pressures and the fear and the stresses that often come with that as well. So certainly, if there's an avenue where we can point to people in terms of the kind of financial end of things, then that's very useful. It leaves me to say a huge thank you to NISC for organising, facilitating and doing all the technical end. Very, very grateful that I haven't had to do any of that. And a huge thank you to Janine and Margaret from MAPS. I know I find that information extremely useful in my own finances, possibly, as well as the finances of the people we support. I think it's such a good thing when we're supported to sort of think very practically about how we can help people. So it's been a great session, and I think it's a very useful partnership between money guidance and social work. There's a lot of links, and something that's sort of very fruitful for us all in pursuing. So thank you very much, and goodbye, everyone.